the issue of vocational classes in high school. Vocational classes as in auto shop, woodwork, culinary, agriculture, etc. And the benefits of long-term and short-term effects on its students has been a nationwide and international hot topic. But are vocational classes beneficial to our high school students? After all, Jordan's claim that vocational classes are more viable than college prep classes seems to be accurate on the surface. But if we take a closer look, we can see that college prep classes are more beneficial to students, which is my main claim. College prep classes are more beneficial than vocational classes. My secondary claims are this. The amount of students enrolling in college is increasing, both in percentage and amount. It is not the lack of teachers, but the system itself of vocational studies that Jordan claimed was the problem with vocational studies. And lastly, my third claim will be that jobs that require further education past high school is greater than the demands of jobs that require a high school diploma or less. For my first claim, that the amount of students is enrolling in college is increasing, according to the National Center for Education Statistics, between 2000 and 2010, the 18 to 24-year-old population rose from approximately 27.3 million to approximately 30.7 million, and the percentage of 18 to 24-year-olds enrolled in college also was higher in 2010, which was 41.2%, then in 2000, 35.5%. That's a 5% difference in age 18 to 24-year-olds going to college in 10 years. Going on to my second claim, which is that the lack of teachers isn't the problem, as Jordan stated, but it is the system itself that is the problem with the system. According to Robert Pittman, who was published in the Journal of Educational Research, claims that the variable that were identified as being most highly associated with dropout status of people dropping out of high school reflected the influence of a student's social relationship within the school environment. So it wasn't the lack of teachers in vocational studies making these students drop out of high school, but it was rather what I will just make a insinuation about is that it's the fact that oftentimes these schools where vocational studies are promoted actually lead to stratification, that is, to certain demographics, certain minorities to be funneled into these vocational programs. And that fact comes from Jay Matthews of Washington Post. He calls it a dumping ground of minorities, which is a problem that has existed for generations. My third claim is that the demands of jobs that require further education past high school is greater than the demands of jobs that require a high school diploma or less. Now, the Federal Secretary of Education, Orrin Duncan, along with Harvard's Graduate School of Education, when debating about the needed reform of vocational education in the U.S., said this: a reimagined education system with a strong vocational component, the Harvard team wrote, would still require at least 1 year of post-secondary education or training, that's college, for every student. That message was reinforced by Duncan, who was the Federal Secretary of Education, who warned that contemporary vocational education is not about earning a diploma and landing a job after high school, but rather preparing for a post-secondary degree or an industry-recognized certification. Jordan had stated from the LA Times that the U.S. had a shortage of skilled workers, yet evidence shows that students seeking these jobs will still need to go to college. Also, in support of that claim, is taken from the American Journal of Sociology in a journal that was written in 2013 by Liu and Grusky, that say the demand of manual labor jobs are decreasing while the demands for professional and managerial jobs are increasing. So in conclusion, Jordan's claims that vocational classes help students stay in school is not accurate. And his claim that the demand for white-collar jobs is increasing as time goes on is also inaccurate due to these scholastic journals that I have presented before you today. Thank you for your time.
All right, the subject's identified. It appears that you're making just basically a giant counterclaim on the advocate's point, and that what you end up doing is building your own structure to support your proposition rather than applying that structure to the advocate's arguments, because I don't really hear much about any of the advocate's evidence or the way they've made their inferences. I mostly hear your counterclaims, and sometimes the counterclaims aren't even put in the context of the argument that the advocate presented. I think the place where you did the best job on that was on the third point, so I thought that you're finishing off the right way, because you do contrast it a little bit more effectively with what the advocate talked about on those particular points. I thought in building your argument you found some very good evidence, but I don't understand why this whole first point about showing the increase in the number of students applies to the argument that the advocate was talking about. It wasn't clear to me that the second point talked about that the advocate said that there was a shortage of teachers, and that was the problem, or there's a shortage of vocational programs. There's not really much discussion of what the advocate said on this point. Mostly it comes back to you've got a counterclaim that says that they're dropping out for other reasons, and that in fact if we had this vocational thing, it would really result in a stratification kind of thing that dumps people into groups that they would never get out of in the first place. How that is worse than what's going on now is not explained, and I think you need a little bit stronger explanation on that. The third point, I think, has the clearest argument, and it has the best information on it, on that particular argument, and that is that there's a continuing need. Even if people had vocational programs, there's still an expectation that people would have some post-secondary education that would supplement this to allow them to work. Now, the notion that the number of jobs in the managerial categories is increasing and the number of labor jobs is decreasing. You know what? The number of labor jobs is decreasing. I think that people probably understand that one, believe that one. But the assertion that managerial jobs are increasing, I think, needs better evidence, because it really sounds like an assertion here. All right. Thank you.